All right. Hey, welcome to the Social Thread podcast. Social Thread is a nonprofit where you can belong, you can thrive, and you can explore your faith on your own terms in community. And my name is Robert, and I am the Community Development Director here at Social Thread. And with me, as always, my partner in crime
is Rob Reinders, founder of Social Thread and co-host extraordinaire.
Fantastic. Also, and with us today is a very special guest, Mr. Jason Isaak, who is advisor to the Arizona Attorney General. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And not only is Jason a well-known political figure around town, but he is also what I would refer to as a master Bible teacher also too. So his approach to the text and his insight is well known amongst at least me and my circle, because we have known each other for a long time.
Yes, indeed.
So, hey, brother, thanks for being here. And so why don't you give us a quick overview of your history, your bio, and your journey up until now?
Yeah, you got it. Thanks. I am a native Tucsonan, so have been in Arizona all my life, with the exception of a couple years where I ran away for college and spent a couple years on Capitol Hill. I, like I said, grew up in Tucson and went to Baylor University, where I got an English degree, which qualifies you to do everything and nothing. And from there, was trying to sort through, am I going to go to grad school? Am I going to go to law school? I thought about joining the FBI or something like that. And what ended up happening was I went back to Washington, D.C. and worked for my hometown congressman, Jim Kolbe, who represented Tucson and Southern Arizona, and worked for him for 8 years back on Capitol Hill. Ended up being his legislative director, doing his appropriations committee work, which was just an amazing experience. And I had my top secret security clearance, got to do amazing things, and frankly, should have probably paid to have that experience. But I missed Arizona, moved back, and spent 19 years with a very small lobbying firm that did government relations work at the state, local, and federal levels, and really enjoyed doing that. And then a couple of years ago, got a phone call from the Attorney General asking if I'd be interested in coming back to public service and serving as his advisor. And so I've been here for just about 2.5 years.
That's awesome. That's quite an experience that you have.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons that we're having you on right now is that we, as a country, are experiencing a significant political strife, and I would say it's on fire. And so at Social Thread, we're trying to have meaningful conversations and learn how to listen, but particularly with listening to people that we disagree with, and searching for how to do that. And so I'm wondering, given your experience, particularly as a lobbyist and working for the Attorney General, is what kind of techniques have you learned on how to have conversations with people that you politically disagree with?
And there have been plenty of those over the years. It's a couple key principles that I'll touch on, and we can expand where you want to. One thing is, no one agrees with you 100% of the time, except possibly your therapist, and that might be the only person who agrees with you 100% of the time. Your spouse, your parents, your best friend. Hopefully you do have people in your life that are holding you to account, or people who you can actually have a really good, healthy conversation, because having that ability to have an intellectual conversation with someone who comes at it from a different angle, I think only helps you grow as an individual. I think that helps grow wisdom. I think that helps grow knowledge. I think it helps grow your ability to interact with others. And so there's a lot of benefit to having conversations with people who disagree with you. And as I think it was Ronald Reagan who said, we can disagree, but let's not be disagreeable about it. And that may be a principle that should guide all of that. But I had a lot of people that I, in representing a politician back on Capitol Hill and now here at the Attorney General's office, we do have conversations with people who take a different position. And largely it's a couple things. First, with almost everyone you're engaging with, just for humanity's sake, find areas of common ground. And that may not be possible in every circumstance and in every interaction, but hopefully you're dealing with people who you are going to deal with again. And so finding bits of common ground and things that are not a tense conversation or a tense topic, but instead one that is unifying is a possible thing to do. And then I think the other thing is listening and asking questions. The more questions you ask, the more information you're going to get. And frankly, I think it makes the other person feel like they're being heard when you're asking questions, and not gotcha questions or some trick question to show how smart you are, but genuinely having that moment to say, why do you think that? Help me understand a little bit more. And then I think that's what can really help foster a conversation that will not go sideways.
Because I really loved what you said about listening and speaking without the intent of converting or convincing.
Yeah. So yeah, if you are going into a conversation where your goal is to convert someone to your position or convince them that they're wrong, and less that you're right, but more that they're wrong. But if you're approaching as, I want to understand, I want you to understand me, someone's going to be in a better position to be able to listen to you if they feel like they have been heard. Not in every circumstance. And honestly, if an individual is absolutely dead set on making sure you know that you're wrong, I think it's almost impossible to have a really meaningful conversation. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's the reality. Not every conversation, even if you go into it with best intentions, is going to turn out being good.
In all your years of public service and being in politics and lobbying and such, have you seen the discourse change with the rise of social media and the mass adoption of social media platforms?
I wrote a paper in college, so this would have been in '88 or maybe '89. I was in poli-sci class, and I wrote a paper about how C-SPAN was going to destroy America because congressmen were more concerned about what their hair looked like and giving speeches than they were about getting the people's business done. And I'm going to have to dust that thing off because I'm sure it was not a great paper, but looking back, for a long time now, we've been obsessed with seeing ourselves on television, hearing ourselves talk, and trying to find that 15 moments or minutes of fame. And social media has just put that into overdrive. And I probably don't need to rehash so much of what everyone is saying, but there's a consequence free, there's no accountability in those relationships. Most of the time you don't have any relationship with the people you're going back and forth with. And so to me, it feels like it just feeds on itself. If you take 10 minutes to read the comments on a tweet by Nancy Pelosi or a tweet by Donald Trump, you have to get maybe one deep before it's just poisonous. And so I consume as much as I have to, but no more than I have to. And honestly, even Facebook and with friends and people you know that you're actually more connected with than on a Twitter or Instagram, even there, you really find out that people are trying to convince or shame or do something else. And I don't think that moves conversations or relationships forward.
Yeah, I agree. If we just, instead of, hey, I need to post here and convince my friends of whatever, I always think like, well, what if instead of we picked up the phone or something, just caught up with a friend of, we'd spend that time so much more wisely building relationship instead of trying to win an argument that we ourselves sort of, stoke by posting a certain article or something.
Right.
I'm
And
going to really,
when you're
yeah,
doing, exactly what you're doing when you post something.
yeah.
I think a lot of times that, I'm wondering, when people are posting, articles intending to convince or convert, I wonder if, that's sort of like they're trying to make up for action and being involved, and that sort of supplements that, instead of taking real action and really being involved, well, you can just sort of throw stones and feel like you're involved and feel like you're taking action in something that you believe. And so my question is for those of us who want to be actually involved, and be a part of real change, what are some actions that we can do, that sort of can back up what we believe? How can we take a place in politics, and what we believe in a healthy way?
Wow, I'm going to quote Reagan twice. If government is the answer, you're asking the wrong question. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. The longer I've been involved with government, and there are very important things the government does, no question about it. I think that's the basis of a civil society, the rule of law, of just order out of what could be chaos. The more I'm in it, the more I'm absolutely convinced that the only way you're going to change the world is by being a good neighbor. And it's not going to be government fixing it. I heard a line, I can't remember who said it, but it was, if you want to stop murder, we should make it illegal. And I thought, you know what? It's kind of a telling statement, because there are a lot of things that are against the law, but people still do them. And so I'm not convinced that laws are the answer to everything. You do need it, again, in that construct of what a civil society that our framers decided was the best way to go. But apart from that, I think me being a neighbor to Robert and to Rob and to the people on my street, trying to raise my kids, that's, I think, the best way to actually be politically active. I think it's to engage your community and not necessarily, and if there's something you really care about, or, I think there should be a film tax credit, or I think we should, make sure pre-existing conditions are covered. Go advocate for those things. I'm not saying any of that is not appropriate, but what I am saying is I think change is really in community. I don't think change is going to be really found through some government action. That's just, again, a little soapbox, and I may be way off base, but that's how I would answer that question.
So you and I, we've known each other for a while, and I know that, and I said at the beginning of the podcast that, or I hope I did, that you are known for being what I would refer to as a master Bible teacher, like of the teacher of the text. And so I think my question is, how does your faith inform your action in politics and how you live your life?
My faith, and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and have been since a young age. That relationship has changed and evolved over the years, ebbed and flowed. That's a whole different show that I think would require maybe a scotch and a cigar. We can talk about that later, but
we're in.
yeah, exactly. Here's what I would say. My faith, I think N.T. Wright had a great line in a book. Oh my gosh. I want to say Surprised by Joy, but that was C.S. Lewis's book.
It's Surprised by Hope.
Surprised by Hope. Thank you. And at the very beginning, he has this long conversation about the "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets. You remember those? And it was, the WWJD bracelets and what would Jesus do? And so that whenever you're about to do something, you'd stop and think and look at the bracelet and go, oh, I need to process that. But N.T. Wright basically suggested that our faith should not make a bracelet like that essential. What our goal should be to just naturally be growing and maturing in our faith to a point where we don't stop and ask the question. We already know the answer, and it becomes a natural outpouring of who we are. And I think I'm just on a really long, painful journey about trying to figure out what that means for me. Studying scripture, spending time, reading what scholars think about it is great, all that sort of stuff. But I think part of it is community has been very important to me in that aspect. Community is just as important as a Greek or Hebrew dictionary by your side when you're looking at what a word means. I think it's just important to have an individual across the table say, yeah, I went through that and I know what that's like. It's painful and it sucks, but here's what I went through. Here's how you might approach a problem or a quandary or something like that. And I would love to say at the end of life that I have gotten to a point where my faith is just part of who I am in everything I do. And I wish that were the case all the time. It's not. And that's what I'm working toward.
Thinking about, how life can be messy and faith can be messy and your journey can be messy. What is it like when you have something in your faith and then it is contradicted with something at work? How do you work that out?
Yeah, I think I've been generally fortunate in that space where I've not been in a lot of serious conflict over an issue like that is fundamental to faith or just a core beliefs. Congressman Kolbe, who I adore, consider a dear, dear friend, he and I have got, for example, different views on the life issue. And so I spent those 8 years on Capitol Hill as, and again, I'm going to use terms that are, who knows, they may be outdated now. I don't know, but I'm a pro-life guy working for a pro-choice guy on abortion. And the reality is, Jim and I had a lot of very good, meaningful conversations about that issue. And another thing is, I didn't primarily work on those issues. He appreciated that different people have different views, and if those are deeply held moral or religious beliefs, that he's not going to ask you to do anything that would contradict that. And so hopefully, if you're in a situation at your work where there is a conflict like that, those are tough conversations, but I think they're very real and important conversations to have. Fast forwarding to when I was a lobbyist, we had a bipartisan firm. We had people like from the far left to the far right and everything in between. And we as a group decided we were not going to take on clients where someone had a really opposite, deeply held belief. And so we didn't do gun issues. We didn't do cigarette issues. We didn't do abortion issues. There were things that we just knew as a group that, we weren't going to do because we didn't have to. And the relationship between all of us was more important than a new client. And so like I said, I've been really fortunate that I haven't been in a spot where I've thought, oh my gosh, how am I gonna wake up and go to work and advocate for something that I think is wrong or contradicts scripture or anything like that. I've not been in that position. I've been in the position of advocating for things that I thought, is that really the role of government to do that? But to me, that's not a deep moral quandary. So I've been able to really walk that line.
And Jason, you also have a passion for helping people know about our amazing Arizona leaders, and you do
Yeah.
that through a podcast. How can our listeners listen to you interview amazing leaders?
Thanks, Robert. That is a passion. It's been so much fun. I can't believe that people let me talk to them and take their time. And frankly, I learn a lot more from them than I benefit more than anybody. And it's called Arizona Originals. You can find that on iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. It should be there. And just type in Arizona Originals. And I haven't done any new recordings in 2020. It's I saw a great picture. It was of this long line of outhouses, porta potties, and they were on fire. And the fire was really hot in the middle, and it was starting to melt everything. And it said, "If 2020 was a scented candle," and I thought, okay, that is. It's been a chaotic year. It's been busy at work. Stuff with the kids has been challenging. So I'm way behind this year, but there are 60 plus episodes of really, truly some of the most amazing people that you've heard of and that you've never heard of here in Arizona that have really done some amazing things. So Robert, thanks for that. I appreciate it. A chance to plug that is always fun. Podcasting's amazing. The fact you guys are doing this, reaching individuals who want to have a meaningful conversation, learn more about themselves, build that community. That is a public service. So thanks for doing that.
You're welcome. And what is your podcast called?
It's Arizona Originals. So you can either find it at azoriginals.net or on social media. I think it's at Our Arizona Originals. And then Arizona Originals, you just search in Apple Podcast or wherever, and it should pop up.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Hey, I really appreciate you taking time and speaking with us today. It has been fantastic.
Hey, thank you both. I appreciate the opportunity and really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, brother, and thank you for your public service.
Hey, you got it.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, Social Thread. If you have found this conversation meaningful, you can go to socialthread.org and click Get Involved and get into community where you can honestly practice having difficult conversations, and you can have great conversations there too. If you want to be involved in a different way, we are a nonprofit, so you can go to socialthread.org/support and get involved that way. Until next time, thank you so much for listening.